Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Are My Kids on Track? The 12 Emotional, Social, and Spiritual Milestones Your Child Needs to Reach. By Sissy Goff, MED, LPC, MHSP, David Thomas, LMSW, and Melissa Trevathan, MRE. Narrated by Lisa Larsen. Introduction. Is my baby rolling back and forth? Does she respond to her name? Can he sit up on his own? Questions. The journey of parenting is full of questions. More questions than answers. The first time a pediatrician enters the hospital room, you'll find yourself asking and answering questions. It starts with questions about feeding, sleeping, and, of all things, bowel movements. Who knew there was so much to say about meconium? How do I know if she is getting enough milk? How much will my newborn sleep? How often should he have bowel movements, and what color should they be? We join forces to track height, weight, sleeping patterns, feeding schedules, colic, jaundice, reflux, stools, alertness, reflexes, immunizations, and on and on. And this is just the first few weeks. Many times our questions are infused with hope. At times they are wrapped in fear. The questions become framed by milestones. Developmental milestones are benchmarks allowing us to track healthy growth, specifically whether our kids are reaching milestones on time. When movement is slow or milestones are missed, we have more questions. These questions, the ones about rolling over, pulling up, sitting, crawling, standing, etc., allow us to track their physical development. Once our children step into an academic setting, we have the ability to track their cognitive development, where we can measure IQ, working memory, processing speed, and even pinpoint if a child is reading at a second grade level, third month, and fourth week. Between the school and doctor's office, we track a child's cognitive and physical development, charting progress, logging percentages, identifying gaps, and layering support. We have the mind and body covered. But what about the heart? 3 areas lacking in well-defined milestones are our kids' emotional, social, and spiritual development. These are some of the most vital categories where our kids' growth is concerned. It's from this place our kids operate as sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, friends and companions. How our children develop emotionally, socially, and spiritually determines who they are as husbands and wives, fathers and mothers, friends and coworkers. Can your adolescent son take ownership when he makes a mistake? Or does he blame someone else? Can your daughter voice her needs without manipulation? Do you have a school-aged child still having meltdowns like a toddler? Does your teenager have a foundation of faith as he prepares to step into young adulthood? Getting stuck. We're looking for evidence that kids are progressing toward emotional and social milestones. As with physical and cognitive benchmarks, if we can't see forward movement, it could be a good time to put another set of eyes on the situation. As counselors, with a combined 70 years of experience, we come together with families every day to look at how children and adolescents are growing emotionally, socially, and spiritually. Sometimes kids get stuck, and we have to jumpstart the process. Sadly, we've seen countless parents who got stuck somewhere in their own development. We all know an adult man who acts like an adolescent boy. Turn on any episode of The Real Housewives of Fill in the City and catch a group of middle-aged women acting like middle school girls. There are living, breathing examples all around us of adults who never hit emotional or social milestones and are still operating from where they got stuck. Years ago, we worked with a family during a difficult divorce. The father of this family was a successful physician. He wasn't just a successful doctor, he was also an entrepreneur. He'd purchased investment properties across the city, which had yielded hundreds of thousands of dollars. From an outside perspective, he looked highly successful. He'd attended a prestigious medical school. He owned a beautiful home in an affluent part of the city. He sent his children to some of the top private schools. He'd taken his family on countless vacations across the globe. Sadly, once you pulled back the curtain, his wife described him as arrogant, self-serving, and volatile. She shared stories of nurses who'd left his practice, investment partners who'd dissolved partnerships, and a marriage that had been hanging by a thread for years. He was an impossible employer, business partner, and spouse. The children described their father as angry, explosive, and demanding. They shared stories of him starting arguments with their mom in public places, restaurants, soccer games, and school events, sometimes within earshot of the kids' coaches, teachers, friends, and other parents. He had the impulsive, explosive, volatile responses of a teenage boy. This brilliant, well-educated man had developed a pattern of demanding his way, and most individuals would cower and accommodate him. He'd react, blame, and punish the people in close proximity. In family sessions, the father showed little to no evidence of practicing empathy or the ability to regulate his emotions. When challenged to revisit one of their volatile public exchanges, he consistently struggled to step into his children's shoes and imagine witnessing conflict from their perspective. He had little awareness of self. Working with him felt identical to sitting with a middle school boy who hadn't mastered reciprocity, empathy, or regulation. Teenage boys are vulnerable to getting stuck in a pattern of blaming everyone around them for their problems. Parents for being too strict, teachers for being against them, and the list goes on. This man missed some vital emotional and social milestones. No one leaned in close enough to identify that he was racing ahead academically and physically, but was underdeveloped emotionally and socially. But it became apparent to everyone, spouse, children, coworkers, business partners, friends, once he began train-wrecking every relationship within reach. Progressing toward. At Daystar, where the three of us practice, we also work with families led by parents who are invested, intentional, and deeply interested in supporting their children. As we spend time with different kinds of parents, we find that the ones who've done their own emotional work are best equipped to support their kids emotionally. As parents, we can only offer as much as we have to give ourselves. If we never made it past 16 emotionally, it will be impossible to walk our kids into healthy adulthood. How could the wealthy doctor ever teach his children to navigate conflict constructively? How could his children develop a roadmap for healthy relationships with the opposite sex when every female nurse ended up quitting and their own mother couldn't live in the same house with the man? How would they learn what it looks like for an adult to make a mistake, a normal part of life, and take ownership, a necessary skill? We have to become emotionally, socially, and spiritually developed adults before we can walk our children toward these milestones. If you're thinking some version of uh-oh, or maybe your spouse is nudging you in the arm at this moment in the book, don't fear. Our game plan is to break down 4 emotional, 4 social, and 4 spiritual milestones. We will define those milestones and discuss the stumbling blocks in getting there and the building blocks for reaching them that are unique to each gender. And we'll identify practical ways to help our kids get there. We hope to help you examine your past and the effect it has on your present as a parent. We believe kids learn more through observation than information. They need to watch us moving toward healthy adulthood, emotionally, socially, and spiritually, in order to have confidence and hope in their own journey. We aren't looking for evidence of mastery or perfection in you or your children. No human being responds with empathy in every moment of life. Kids are going to have emotional meltdowns at times. They are going to struggle with awareness and boundaries in different situations. We are looking for evidence that they are demonstrating the skills with some consistency, and the skills are becoming more developed over time. Anytime we see kids trending backward more than forward in any category of their development, it's worth asking some questions or putting another set of eyes on the situation. We often talk about parenting out of love instead of fear. When we linger with questions over an extended time, we inevitably end up parenting more out of fear. We believe our kids never get the best of us when we're trapped in fear. Our desire is that this book would move you away from fear and toward hope, providing you partnership with folks who care deeply about kids and families. Let's explore Milestones together. 1. Emotional vocabulary. If you were to walk into any kindergarten classroom across the globe, there would be a common denominator, no matter the city or state, country or culture, regardless of the language spoken. We're referring to the letters of the alphabet. Every wise early educator knows that having the letters of the alphabet in a prominent place within the classroom reinforces recognition, strengthening the cognitive connection in developing mastery of language. Letters form words. Words form sentences. Sentences form paragraphs. These are the building blocks of language. The objective is simple. The more kids see the letters, the more familiar they become. Classroom teachers will point to them, sound them out, use letters throughout the curriculum to strengthen the connections being made. Parents of early learners will watch as their children trace over the shape of the letters framing the classroom walls. Little hands will grip pencils to form the lines and curves making up the letters of the alphabet, further strengthening the connections. Familiarity with the alphabet allows children to recognize and script letters, making the tasks of reading and writing second nature. If we labor in these areas on the front end, children become skilled readers and writers, mastering the building blocks for all future academic work. It would be a gift to children to approach emotional development in a similar way. Anytime we've spoken on any topic related to kids, a parent will ask a question about a child who spirals, melts down, acts out, becomes unhinged, or completely loses it. The question is about a child's ability to regulate emotionally. Learning to regulate, perspective, is not all that different from learning to read or write. It's an emotional skill rather than a cognitive skill, but the building blocks are similar. We begin with teaching kids feeling words, vocabulary, that leads to statements like, "I feel sad that my sister won't play with me." These statements then lead to actions, resourcefulness, or taking the emotion to something constructive. These are the foundational building blocks of emotional development. When kids don't have an emotional vocabulary or haven't been coached in taking the emotion to something constructive, they don't have the skills to regulate themselves in moments of elevated emotion. Expecting them to do so without these basic skills would be as foolish as handing a copy of Charlotte's Web to a 2-year-old and asking her to read aloud. The child doesn't know letters, words, or sentences. We have to first teach the building blocks and identify any stumbling blocks that may be in the way. We'll define the milestones clearly and provide a checklist for helping kids progress toward the milestones. Making emotional literacy a priority. It all starts with the milestone of vocabulary. The ability to read and articulate our own emotions as well as the emotions of others. Emotional literacy is a prerequisite to regulation, practiced empathy, resourcefulness, and healthy interpersonal relationships. Lean into that statement. If it is true, then as parents, educators, and people who care about children, we should feel a strong sense of urgency to weave emotional literacy into the daily rhythm of our families and classrooms. Prioritizing these milestones will shape who our kids become as people. We can't help but wonder, if these milestones became priorities in our homes and social emotional learning was a part of curriculum like math and science, would there be a massive shift in the divorce statistics? The thousands of individuals who enter treatment for substance abuse or eating disorders? The billions of dollars being funneled into the porn industry? The millions of dollars spent on dieting, and dozens of other ways Americans avoid, deny, and attempt to suppress emotion. Can you imagine the cultural shift that could take place if children grew up with a strong emotional vocabulary, and we prioritized teaching them how to navigate emotion in a healthy way? What if we devoted ourselves to emotional development the way we commit to youth sports in the U.S.? Now, before you toss this book across the room over that last question, please hear us strongly endorse the benefits of extracurricular activities for kids and the well-documented benefits of organized sports. Not only are these beneficial contexts for children developing physically, but they are valuable platforms for helping kids develop emotionally and socially. Perseverance, teamwork, grit, navigating defeat, building endurance, etc. We simply challenge you to see these milestones as some of the highest priorities in our children's development, and consider the necessary sacrifices to accomplish that goal. One sacrifice might be looking at your 12-year-old son following a fit of anger and saying, "Committing to, paying for, and driving to soccer is something I do for respectful and responsible kids. I won't be taking you to practice today." You'll need to call your coach and let him know you made choices resulting in missing practice today. I don't know what his consequences will be, but I'll support whatever it is. And I'll follow up with your coach to make sure you made that call. Prioritizing these milestones could mean joining the PTA to research character development curriculum and appealing to the school board to integrate social-emotional learning throughout your child's education, where collaboration, compassion, empathy, service, and civility are discussed as regularly as math, science, social studies, and reading. Prioritizing these milestones in our homes doesn't have to be labor-intensive. It can be really fun and breed connection with your kids. It could mean more family movie nights with great conversations afterward. It could involve pancake breakfasts on Saturday mornings with table topics questions as part of that time. It could mean holding family meetings once a week where everyone plays a role. We're going to suggest dozens of ideas to you throughout this book. We'll take the guesswork out of it in hopes that these practices become part of the fabric of your life together as a family. Most of the ideas will work in a classroom setting, Sunday school, or soccer field as easily as they work around a dinner table. Let's jump in. Boys and emotions. It's important to first dispel the myth that girls have more emotions than boys. That couldn't be farther from the truth. Females can certainly express emotions differently. Many studies identify women as having higher levels of emotional intelligence and a stronger ability to read the emotions of others. Studies also reveal differences in how females respond to emotion, but there is no research to support females have more emotions than males. After reaching puberty, girls do possess more of the prolactin hormone, which contributes to tears and how much people cry. There's a difference in the shape of tear ducts in women and men, which may or may not contribute to why women are more prone to crying than men. But they don't have more feelings. They simply tend to have a more developed emotional vocabulary, an advanced ability to express emotion, and a stronger ability to read the emotions of others. Stumbling blocks for boys. Stumbling block number 1. Cultural influences. A range of factors, both physiological and cultural, play a role in our understanding of the differences between boys and girls. With boys, we'll be working against a societal tsunami educating our sons about masculinity and what it means to be a male in this world. Some days I, David, feel underwater in my attempts to fight the messages and images bombarding boys. As I write this, I'm reminded of a YouTube video sent to me by a friend. The Always brand put together this beautifully crafted 3-minute video titled #LikeAGirl. The video confronts the cultural message we send to girls and boys that running like a girl, throwing like a girl, doing many things like a girl is a sign of weakness. The video is a societal experimentation illustrating how prepubescent girls see running as simply something they naturally do, and do well. These beautiful young girls demonstrate running, throwing, fighting, and kicking with power, strength, and vitality. Our culture will communicate countless distortions to our sons and daughters. Many boys believe they are flawed, damaged, or simply less masculine when experiencing strong emotions. They begin working early to suppress certain emotions in an effort to appear more masculine or more in line with culture's understanding of what it looks like to be fully male. I often recommend families watch The Mask You Live In, a documentary created by the wise folks at the Representation Project, as a jumping-off point to discuss what it means to be masculine in this world. As a boy navigates his emotional terrain, he'll be coached in a range of ways that are in keeping with our cultural definition of what it means to be male. He'll feel sad or afraid in 1,000 moments, and hear coaches, parents, and peers say things like, "Man up," or "Stop crying," or "Quit acting like a girl." Rarely is a boy given permission to just feel whatever he is feeling, and to know that in that moment, he is fully masculine. Stumbling block number 2. Strong emotions. The longer I work as a therapist and talk with thousands of children and families, the more evidence I continue to see of the role temperament plays in the parenting journey. Perhaps I've never believed more in the importance of paying attention to temperament than I have in my own journey of parenting multiples. 2 of my 3 children are twin boys, born on the same day within 3 minutes of each other. They share gender. They share genetics. They shared the womb. Still to date, they share a room. With all the shared experiences of growing up in the same environment, their differences couldn't be more pronounced. They are both intuitive and observant. Some might call it a side effect of being raised by a therapist. But one of my sons comes up against many moments in life where his emotions overwhelm him. Feelings rise up in him, and he struggles to keep his head above water. It's happened countless times within the walls of our home, in the company of his friends, following a tournament loss, and once in conversation with our pediatrician, to name just a few. He feels deeply. Though it feels a bit like a curse to him in this moment of his development, I know enough to know it's a gift that will someday bless his own wife and children. I remind him of this, though he can't fully comprehend that yet. I found we often see early evidence of this gift. I recently sat with the parents of a 2nd-grade boy. Paul is the oldest of 4 children and takes his parents to places of confusion, frustration, and feeling like they've come to the end of themselves. He is a bright, curious, sometimes stubborn, strong-willed young man. His parents describe him as full of emotion. When he's happy, everyone around him feels it. When he's frustrated, everyone around him knows it. We talked about how deeply he feels and how it can come out sideways. They told a story of Paul at 2 years of age. It was Christmas morning, and his dad was videoing him coming down the stairs toward the family tree. he caught sight of a brand new train table with Thomas the Tank Engine encircling the track, his most wished-for gift. He looked up at his parents with huge eyes that began filling with tears. He was so overtaken by the joy of this discovery, he fell to his knees and collapsed forward, sobbing on the ground. His father shut off the camera as he realized the moment was playing out much differently than they'd expected. Paul was giving his parents a glimpse into the future. The same boy who was overcome with joy at seeing his beloved train set for the first time at 2 years old would be the same boy who at 5, 6, 7, and 8 would have difficulty regulating his emotions. He'd have hundreds of moments where feelings would erupt inside of him, and he'd struggle to weather the emotional tsunami. Before we can walk him forward, we have to accept, embrace, and celebrate him as a boy who feels things deeply, where most of life's experiences reverberate loudly inside of him. I'm thankful this young boy has intuitive, intentional, supportive parents who want to understand and celebrate how their son is hardwired. They want to help him navigate this rich, deep interior world. I've met a lot of young men like Paul over the years. I don't like the idea of referring to these boys as hypersensitive. When I meet with boys like Paul, I frame it as a superhero power, like a spidey sense. I remind them that they have the ability to enter a room and observe or absorb things other boys can't. I'll sometimes show them the scene from Spider-Man where Peter Parker is discovering his gifts. I also show boys a scene from the Man of Steel movie, where Clark Kent is first stumbling into an understanding of his powers. He's seated in his elementary school classroom when he hears a clock ticking and a classmate tapping a pencil like it's in Dolby surround sound. He sees and hears everything around him in high definition. He can't shut down the fact that his system is in sensory overload. It sends him running out of the room in tears. The scene resonates with many boys who know what it feels like to be flooded with emotions that they struggle to navigate. Stumbling block number 3. Wild cards. When this flood of emotions intersects with a limited emotional vocabulary, it's a bit like trying to drive cross-country without a GPS. There's no map for the journey. When there isn't a navigation system in place, we're bound to make wrong turns or end up in a place we never intended to be. When we don't equip boys with an emotional vocabulary, coach them in taking the emotions to something constructive, and model this for them, we can expect emotions to come out sideways, often with volatility. I frequently consult with parents who reluctantly report to me that their young son, as early as 6, 7, or 8 years old, has made a statement like, "I wish I was dead. I should just kill myself. I hate my life." Rarely would I see a young boy with true suicidal ideation. These statements mean something very different for a 6-year-old versus a 16-year-old. For many young boys, these statements are what I call a wild card. It's his way of telling the adults around him that he's experiencing strong emotions. It's the strongest thing he knows to say, the most frightening statement any person could make. He's not progressing toward the milestones of emotional vocabulary and perspective. He's stuck. Our objective becomes walking him back toward the first milestone with statements like, "I can tell you're feeling a lot of feelings. Let's explore what they are and figure out what to do with them." Do you hear evidence of partnership in that statement? If you've ever done a trust walk, there are 2 ways to approach it. The first approach is one person blindfolded and guided by the hand of another person. They may speak commands or simply walk you toward the identified place. Either way, they are in the maze with you. The second approach is one I've always liked less. In this approach, one person is blindfolded and another person yells commands from the sideline, Turn left. Walk 6 steps forward and then lift your leg because there's a giant.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?